Hey, we're gonna do a little bonus stream tonight because I'm up anyways, and it's all practice until we get a chance to actually play. Look, this is the thing I wanted to address the inspiration for round two. My dog Boo is not interested in my decision. She's very upset about this, aren't you, Boo? She's right down here. She's right here, and she's like looking at me. Just give me the side eye. Yeah, funny. Make a joke about it. Thing is, come. I move. It's this remote here. Boo, you're being ridiculous, man. I look. If we get some juice and some grease, if we get the juice and the grease going, then I can get a separate cam for Boo. I can get the Boo cam. You'd like that, right? She'd like that. She's a very anxious dog, so it would actually, in contrast, make me seem much more even and relaxed and present in all the most professional ways. You know what's crazy to me? Oh my God, Boo! Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on! Out, 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 out! All right, is Mike still working? Mike's still working. Okay, the thing is really crazy. People have an expectation of a professional attitude, a disposition that is even, tempered, provides the utmost of consideration for your time, and also provides maximum elocution. All things are in their place, and there happens to be a place for all things. Fuck that. Why? You don't need me to talk that way. It doesn't help. It gets in the way. All right? Now, if I need to do that, like once or twice, I would like input from, like I've sent emails to Destiny, to Vosh. I've sent nobody has responded. I asked questions online about feedback, and nobody has responded. They did it first, which was weird. When I first came on, I think I asked a question about centrism, and I got like 30 responses, all like arguing and squabbling. Now, you could say that since Musk and, it's not like as much going on politically, or there is a lot going on politically, but we don't quite yet know how to respond. Whereas when Trump came out, it was like very easy to know how to respond. And he kept doing more things to justify at least one side's position against him. A lot's going on politically, but we have not yet figured the optimum response. But it's just crazy how it's like there's only 17 people in the whole world. That's the feeling, and it's not just an emotion. It's not like, oh, just how I feel it is. No, it feels that way because all of my observations continue to confirm it's that way. Like just look at what's out there. It sucks. It totally sucks. It sucks. Even the really good stuff sucks because it's not as good as it could be, or it was good and it's degrading. The mix of incentives that have come with entertainment, that's why we have the WGA strike right now. The tensions are irresolvable. One tension, although internet, I don't want to say idiots is too mean, okay? Because if somebody's thinking about this stuff and they're like politics and imperialism and capitalism and using the isms, they're at least pondering something of a more significant nature than just their own shit. But in some ways, because there have been cultures defined recently, I may not be able to assign. That charity might not stick. I would like it to. I would like it. I extend that consideration. I may be frustrated at people's opinions, and I want to express that. But if we're out here expressing opinions, then we're already moving in the right direction, right? That I want. It's so easy to discourage people. This is why I get no responses, and I'm not real sure why, but the effect makes it feel like there are very, very few people actually out here. There are channels upon channels upon channels when it comes to animals or cooking or art or music or history or math or any subject. You're going to have a culture around that. Then there are different tiers because people have preference for what's familiar. So if you're a black female, you probably are going to be interested in other black female content creators, or at least you're going to want to bridge into other things using what's familiar first or look for it eventually. We want the familiar because of reasons, perhaps good reasons. It's easier for us to decode what is what's being attempted to have illustrated. Mannerisms, body language, timing, all of that, plays out. So that I don't get the response that I would expect considering the volume of humans in the world and the significance, importance, and how many times people use it as an example of like expressing political opinions online. It's something that is ubiquitous. It's not like, oh, I've never heard of people doing that before. They're supposed to be out here screaming at each other all the time. They're not. It's boring. It's dull. And it really seems like people have a lockdown on where the channels that you're allowed to go through are the only way that you get a channel out here. The only way to do this is with the help of other content creators that have built audiences and that successive platforming idea. There are successively greater platforms. But ethically, looking at people as stepping stones doesn't jibe with my moves. It doesn't fit. It's not part of my language. I refuse to speak that language. It's not a matter of selling out, right? Selling out. Here's what selling out is. This is another thing people get wrong, and they just love to be oppositional to other people. And that opposition is usually based on jealousy, not any direct. There's no just consideration there. Oh shit, we were supposed to be looking at something else. Shit, what was I saying? People are very easily discouraged. You can't do this without other content creators. It's a successive, the platforms. I'm not just stepping stone. Bum, 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 bum. That song. I'm not your stepping stone, but I would let people be a stepping stone if I knew and they knew, and that was in harmony what they wanted. And that's what I meant. That's what I lost my train of thought about. Selling out. It means I'm doing these things. I'm committed to this. And people say, oh, we'll support you in that endeavor because it's really not about the individual. Although the spirit and power of the individual have benefits to other people. That's a complicated topic. But the Chinese and like Eastern and in some ways other cultures too, but I don't want to go that route. It is fair and safe to say Chinese culture, this idea of like the individual is, not what we're about. We're about the power of the collective. And that is brainwash. Okay? There's a synthesis between the two. You don't top load or bottom load the dichotomy between power to the people, power to the person. It must be an even equilibrium, or else that little bit of a little bit of a differential will start to attract more to one, and those patterns, as we see in other areas like capitalism, that momentum continues to play out that effect till the power differential is so disparate that something breaks or busts. Power to the person, power to the people must be in harmony. That's how you do your society. You don't do it through force. You don't do it through like raw authority. You do it through a mix, a confluency of ideals, ideas, and mechanisms. That's how you have a good thing come about. Selling out is when you say, this is what I'm about, and then you do something different. It's not when you ask for help and you say, I'm going to provide something in return for this, and this relationship is somewhat of an arrangement, but it doesn't make it any less important or real. There's no easy way to say this is why you make art or music, or, you go into public service or religion, or, There's no easy way to just sum that all up. But selling out is one of these things, people don't say this anymore, but the idea is still around. And that's you're being inconsistent and hypocritical, disingenuous for a purpose or agenda that serves you and no one else. Well, people start to say if it serves you, if it plays the game, if it makes other people happy or conforms to any expectations or norms, and that's selling out. Well, no, that's not exactly true. I'm willing to conform, but the norms have to be established, and like someone has to be able to tell me this is why we play by these norms. These are the rules that we've developed or established, but there's no response, none. So the feeling then is that there is a restriction on how much exposure, like how, because I'm always typing. I'm always, here's an idea, here's another idea. I'm very upset. This is very important. Here's the reason, here's the evidence. Here are other people that do this, and here's my argument against it, which is flawless, but people ignore it, which is weird. It's weird that there's that much collective ignorance available. Well, that's not weird that there's that much collective ignorance. It's weird that there's that much active, because it's not just being ignored. It's being ignored while there's a simultaneous impression feeling based off things that we can see of high traffic and robust and there's activity. I think President Sunday's streaming right now, and I'm sure he's got at least 50 people watching him. He's not that great. I would have a completely different opinion if he reached out or talked to me, or said anything other than, oh, you're incoherent, and suggest by talking to somebody else when I was in his chat, he was like doing the phone thing, that people don't want to be lectured at. These are the two bits of advice and feedback he's given me. And I think the incoherent thing actually comes from a misunderstanding. That's the only way that can make sense to me. I think he was scanning through his feedback, or comments, notifications on Twitter. And he saw my response to, Dreamleaf, whoever this person is. And I said to her that her response, because she called, it was AmeriKKK. That's what I was responding to. She was like, kind of this Leninist, imperialist groupthink imitation, which again, the people who would be perpetrating this imitation are already a step better than most people in my mind, because they're actually pushing on things, and they want to go against the norms that are producing disparate effects for people, against the grain of what we say we're about, et cetera, et cetera. There are many arguments you can make against the status quo. So if you are making any, I'm already in appreciation of you. What's frustrating, and the reason that I gave this feedback, is the imitation and the aggravation and opposition to something that you assume is like what's the word I'm looking for here? The charge, the crime that you're presenting against that party is fair and has been established. And there's all these assumptions that go forward in the energy of that opposition. It's like, oh, of course. Yeah, it's capitalism. It's imperial. It's like you've got the go ahead. It's the opposite of being like, you're crazy, which is laziness, because then it dismisses. You don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about or consider or solve or steel man or reciprocate or acknowledge, no less, any of that, because it's crazy. That is the laziest and most common thing we see. And it's just in error. It's flat out in error. So I commented, I said, she said AmeriKKK, imperialism, something like that. And I said, I don't know if you're being serious or not. I can't tell if it's like a Weird Al Yankovic thing where you're like doing a parody of the groupthink is what I'm describing, or if you really legitimately mean that. That's what I said. Okay. Then Sunday comes back because he's like one of these, like, it's all about loyalty. I sense that he has some insecurity in his family life and his history. He's probably picked on at school. There are probably a host of issues that make it make sense for him to be in a posture of proactive confrontation. But there are ways, there are demonstrated ways that people do that, say like Sam Cedar does or something. And these are the models, these are the role models that Sunday would use. Maybe not explicitly in Sam Cedar. I don't know what the proprietary makeup of his influences are, but I do see that whole loyalty thing, or it's like there's no middle ground. It's like you're with us or against us type thing, and divisive behavior within the group is unacceptable, when at the same time, that's his whole deal. I've made this argument before. He's full of contradictions, but I would be an ally of his if they weren't so snotty. Look how many views I have. Who am I even talking to, right? Like this world out here that's rife with interests that I have very much so prepared myself diligently to contribute within. Any topic, any of them, I guarantee that I will make that conversation better. Not singularly, but it's a fact. It's a fact. So that I'm not getting any reactions, like to direct invitations to coalesce, is most easily explained by me because of a snotty thing. It's like, you're not on my level. And if I let you on my level, then I'm responsible for that monster. And none of them want to create this monster. When they don't understand anything that I've said, not because it's incoherent, which is the lazy, kind of like dismissive answer, but because they have not put any work. Not any. I'm not saying like you need to get your, protractor and your technical tools out, your Texas Instruments calculator. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you read it. And if you don't get it at first, maybe read it twice. There you go. There you go. Or say, what do you mean by that? Or this isn't true or something. But the dismissiveness is laziness and it's ill-informed. The inspiration for coming here tonight is, again, for this bonus round, is a video by an individual called TMM. With 65.1 thousand subscribers. So what I'm saying, you don't have to be like genius. In fact, let's see what's going on with President Sunday. This will be fun. We'll come back to, of course, we got to watch the commercial.
All right, today.
Wolves, big, huge dire wolves. Oh, it's the best thing ever.
Nothing brings the pack together like a trip to Great Wolf Lodge. Visit.
Okay. He's not even doing it yet. It's over. I don't get it.
Enforce it.
Well, what else?
Thing better, which is the aim at least. I think
I don't understand. That was like a fucking video or something. Okay, I guess he's not live.
And
I don't know.
we don't
I don't
even seem
really
to be-
care. Like it's more like, what stupid things are they saying now? And they look at that as infighting. But it's like, no, you've created this situation that's made out of errors and bad social. They're not rules because nobody talks about them, not explicitly. They talk about rules that apply to other people and how disgusting or offensive or illogical they are. That's the whole thing. So the idea of infighting with fellow humans is nonstop. The divisions that they draw, in particular them, it's a lot easier for me to just stay on that topic because you see like the amount of subscribers and engagement. It's like, this is not jealousy that I'm demonstrating. It's like bewilderment. How does this work? And that when I ask that, I get no response. Makes me feel like either there's some kind of suppressive function in effect that can't imagine what the hell that would be, because I'm not saying like the algorithm doesn't favor me because I'm not there yet. That's not, of course it doesn't, right? Like, but at least some cursory interest. Think of yourself like a baseball scout or an A&R, an arts and representation person. You're out there looking for potential talent and you come across my content and you say, this guy's feisty and informed, and you may have some observations, which you of course get feedback. Everyone's super critical. It's that they're not right is the problem. Being critical is fine. It's that you're not right and that there is no opportunity to present a counter narrative to see how the audience that opinion, impression, and mannerism is secured through. This is our culture, right? I'm describing a culture that's made through a creator, right? It's weird. It's weird that people have so much engagement that I don't. So suppression just seems weird. That seems like a weird answer. It almost makes more sense that the effect. I don't want to go into this. The weird thing is that it's uniform. Why is it uniform? It's like gaslighting. It's a gaslighting thing. Because I'm not saying, hey, I'm going to come out here and go blah, 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 and everyone make me famous. No, I'm just saying, like, well, what are we talking about? We're talking about politics and history and all kinds of things that I can't contribute to the conversation. I've seen whom you let in. I've seen how you roll. Your standards are not like that high. It's more about engagement and involvement. And people that are spicy and feisty and coming at you like sideways is usually entertaining. But I guess I was too entertaining from the beginning because there's no way to say, oh, just no one knows who you are. Everywhere I go, then there is ensuing silence. So if I'm that bad, then why isn't that entertaining? If I'm that good, which is a better explanation, I would seem as a threat to undermine the bullshit hierarchies and phony authority that they've been able to like keep in a stranglehold, and they're like, no, we'll just take the inspiration from this guy we don't know how to respond to and let it shape discourse, but we won't give him any credit, won't say his name, won't like it, won't subscribe, won't comment, won't do any of that stuff that includes him. And I think that's how the right sees it. They see that, and their culture is explicitly made out of a reaction to that. But because I'm explicitly left, and also they're even more intimidated because they're less educated about society and economics and politics, and they think that those things, when that's presented that way, are of little material. It's God, country, and family or whatever, which I would agree with. But society and economics and politics are there to serve those functions. So as we are in a society that's supposed to be ruled by with the consent of the governed, and we have checks and balances in a three-tiered system of democratic institutions, it's like we should have some awareness over how these institutions are set up, where the pressure points and opportunities for leverage are, things like that. We should be somewhat aware, not terminally informed. That's impossible, especially in this day and age of hyper-specialization. But I've got this guy, I know I'm shaping discourse in regards to religion online. The new atheist thing is out. It's out. It's on its way out. It's tacky. It's like wearing the I'm with stupid shirt or something. It was like fun for a minute because of certain like dialectical reasoning. There's a pressure here. We respond that way. And it keeps going that way. And on top of it going up and down, the up and down also has, little cycles on it too. The religion conversation is too long to break down quickly. But I know that I'm shaping that discourse because before there was really nobody on the scene, and this is going to be my thing. I was going to let other people, because I figured this is like their business. I was going to let other people deal with religion and spirituality and things, but I've come to realize that they are inextricable. Just like society, politics, and economics are one thing, so too are the past, present, and future. Self, others, experience, and are you acting or being acted on? That subjective, objective, thing one, thing two reference, objective, subjective, interpositioning that we do in life as we make our goals and we think about other people that have achieved things and we compare ourselves to them, and all of the things that we all can relate to. It solves that. It's the key to decode everything. The problem is there's truth there. There's essential idealistic truth. And if you have charisma and you've got a propensity for engagement, then you can use that because the incentives start to manifest. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's true. So that we know that, we should incorporate that as a standard in our system checks and balances, democratic institutions, not a direct democracy, to safeguard against, these vulnerabilities and liabilities. And even if this is where Thomas Jefferson's the tree of liberty should be wetted with blood every generation or two or something, that's horseshit. But it makes sense, though, as people in, a span of a couple generations do not understand. Like, imagine World War II generation arguing with online wannabe leftists about communism. Like, if you have any awareness about history, you know how offensive that would be to suggest that European totalitarianism, particularly Russian totalitarianism, is just misunderstood. And that capital and imperial interests have sought to suppress all of the good. It's just bananas. And these kids are only able to make this argument because they're disconnected from the perspective that would make it so much more easy to just be like, that's fucking stupid. It's not only stupid, it's insulting, it's naive, it's condescending, it's ill-informed, it's dysfunctional, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is not coming from a place of like, well, I love capitalism and I want people to work hard or anything like that. I'm probably more chaos driven than your most relativist person, but I'm not a relativist. I'm an essential idealist of the Platonic nature. I'm a Gnostic. I am one of those that sees. I've probably been through this a few times, reincarnation and whatnot. Some of us have been through a few more times than others. I don't have any memory of it. I can't say for sure, but there are ways to consider fantastic explanations that are out beyond what we can prove that help us substantiate what's in front of us better or worse. Now, if we do make progress towards the point of substantiation where we can substantiate our guesses, then we correct, right? But like, if we're not moving towards that, which we're only able to do by, just like Bruce Lee says, by, when you punch, you don't aim for, the thing, you aim past it. You aim past it. So when you hit, you're not hitting in your mind saying, I'm going to stop right there. You're saying, I'm going to stop right here. So it's much easier. It feels easier anyways, because of the mental posturing you're making to go through the thing, because you're telling yourself, I'm going to stop 2 feet past the point that I'm hitting. And it incidentally is better on your, arm and hand and stuff like that too. This is how we're designed to think. We're designed to think in terms of the future based on the past. This is a very unique thing. Other animals, this is just the awareness to talk about this should be an indication that our design is not such that, look at de-evolution, all right? Humans smoking cigarettes. Well, you could say, well, there's a cessation and there's a chemical incentive. Well, but what about when you know that it's bad for you and still going to kill you? I said the incentives, your brain, have you seen a brain on a brain that has addiction? It's blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I've seen all that. I'm glad that you're actually challenging me here. That's all I want. I want to get into it like that. But instead, and I could keep going and win the argument, but there's something that's just, it's obnoxious. It's obnoxious. I appreciate, again, the disclaimer is if somebody is thinking and they're countering the status quo narrative, if they have a counter narrative to the dysfunctional one around them, then they're on the right track. But kids these days, which I find are not kids, they're people my age too. They say they're millennials or whatever. Anyways, there's just so much error, and the reason it gets perpetuated and keeps growing into sicker and weirder things and shapes and dances, like it moves and grooves in certain ways. You see more and more toxicity because there's no correction. There's an understanding that people want to correct them, but they just think that that's the pressure. They've dismissed it. There's an explanation that I don't have to think about that because it's crazy or it's wrong or it's fascist or it's capitalist or blah, blah, blah. And they're part right because the status quo is seemingly an immovable object, but they have stopped looking for what's there because they think they found it. And now what's replaced that is a sense of urgency to complete that. Let's get universal health care now. And if you don't, you're in the way. Let's stop climate change now. Instead of considering these things on a mutual basis, they want to tear through the system of checks and balances into a direct autocratic, function which won't benefit them in their lifetimes. You see how easy it is to manipulate America? It's fucking sad and it's scary. And the people that are most prone to counter the status quo are the problem now. And conservatives and libertarians and like kind of hillbillies and macho dudes and stuff and trad cons and all that see that very clearly, and they're not wrong. So when you have people like Matlack or President Sunday or these like Leninists that think they're oh so right, they're just oh so right, and there's a right way to behave and there's a wrong way, and it's obnoxious. It's so obnoxious when someone has a complaint against our ideology. I'll talk about obnoxious, and the hypocrisies are just like all over the place, riddled with them. But you can't get in there. You can't get at it because they'll dismiss you one way or the other. And in many cases, people deserve to be dismissed because they're coming at it from a position of traditional values or something. They're saying, this is the structure and you want to deviate from that. Well, the people over here are right to want to deviate from that. But they're wrong to say that we're deviating toward this as the solution. And that's an easy case to make. But because they see me seeing through them, they pretend I'm not there. That's my explanation. I don't think that's a crazy explanation. But when someone says you're crazy to begin with, when they're like, then it doesn't matter because everyone's like, we can dismiss it. It's lazy, and that's part of the problem. And that's why your political power is zero, and your explanations have no value because it doesn't convince anyone, as it is not reasonable, rational, or helpful. It ignores problems that have been in the system throughout and focuses on an urgency that will not serve the purpose that you claim to, consider a virtue or have valued as so necessary right now in this way. And it's just wrong. It's one thing to tear down people's bad logic. It's another to present good logic. And this is where the majority report, I think TYT is different. I think TYT is different. I think Sam Cedar comes from a comedic era. He's like, they're very, very Jewish at the majority report, and that's great. But it's like that inner city Jewish kind of like snarky, think Judd Apatow, except maybe like you're not as responsible to as many people, so you can be a little like, let it all hang out. And there's H. John Benjamin and Cedar growing up, and I don't know if they grew up, but they were friends in college and whatnot. And it's in the 90s, they're like 10 years older than me. But I've always kind of hung out with older people, so I know the cultural references that they're up on more so than the younger generation. But the younger generation has this terrible, terrible problem of not actually existing. We're all Gen Z. The older people don't understand. They say, okay, boomer, which no one would say because that's cliche crap logic anyways now at this point. But they still hold the sentiment to be true. Like, it's not that they're like, oh, boomers are okay. No. They just have to be more specific. You're a liberal or you're whatever. Everyone's got some very on deck, in their eyes, like, like the coup de grace, like it's the final blow, and they've just got it ready for you. Oh shit! Sorry, is the mic still working? Yeah, so first off, Generation Z doesn't exist, right? You had the baby boomers. It was a real thing because, you had war and depression, all these things. We come out of that. Everyone's like, let's make some babies. And then these kids now, these Canadian YouTubers are like, and of course they had to grow. It's another version of Manifest Destiny at the expense of the people of color. They always have to grow and expand. I heard someone make an argument today that World War I was a function of running out of space in the minds of the certain people, as he said, who made up the countries, which is like a terrible misread of, romanticism, transcendentalism, American transcendentalism into romanticism, into nationalism. It's a dialectic, right? Like one's super airy and weird, and then you counter that because you want to respond to what you perceive as an imbalance with more tradition, right? So they're like, we're a nation, we're a country. And it also helps them do, it's actually a good thing too in terms of education and transportation and collectivization. There are merits to consciously committing to and maintaining a relationship within a federation. See the Federalist Papers and our Constitution in America. These cases are not hard to make, but people's frames of reference are that it's imperialism and it's capitalism. And it's a misread, because imperialism is a thing and it's something worth discussing and looking for, especially in history, and how the effects of post-colonialism and the temptations of imperialism, as well as the incentives and possibly reasonable, there might not be good reason, but the rationality behind some of those choices. This is how you read history. You don't just smush it all together and be like, there's been this lie. There's been this lie that we need military and blah, 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 blah. And they're missing two things this generation. That's not really a generation. It's another means to dismiss having to think about things. These are called thought-terminating cliches. Write that down. Thought-terminating cliches. This is one of the favorites of the fools. The feisty fools too. So it's used. It's not just like on the menu. It's used. Thought-terminating cliches. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, that's incoherent. Schizo posting. Oh, this is what they use to counter the threat to their, their over-situated, privileged orientation of preference. Your narrative and understanding of reality are preference. That's it. It's not real. My argument against capitalism, the best argument there is against capitalism, is how viable it is to critique it. Like, capitalism's bad, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? Now you can get Patreon subscribers, and you can support me this way, that way, that way. And I got subscribers, and I got this, that, and the other. Telling the truth does not pay so well. Coalescing with trends and looking at data analytics and saying, I'm going to play this or that because I'm going to get a response, is all you're doing. You're not telling the truth. You're not seeing history clearly. You're not pointing out a power differential that we need to coalesce around to resolve. You're making it worse by not going far enough into your analysis to see your error. The error is in the abstraction. You'll find concrete, objective, like references and be like, aha. I don't want to pick on second thought too much because that's where I'm getting that narrative from. But this guy that we're about to watch, he wants to take on religion. Let me just go ahead and erase this because I'm gonna do some drawing while we're doing this. He wants to take on religion. And I think the timing is like 2 weeks ago, which I think is just terribly convenient because that's when I announced myself as the Antichrist. Pearls before swine. It's terrible. It's terrible. What the fuck is wrong with you people? I'm here, okay? It's time to go. I can answer your questions. I can help you coalesce. I can help you counter the violent appetites that people have to tear into what little bit of a like a hierarchy that serves, to establish security in a hierarchy, like a hierarchy of needs. We can have a hierarchy of people and a hierarchy of ideas that serves to serve a hierarchy of material and spiritual and mental things. We need to solve all of these things to be able to get on to real and actual self-actualization. Not like Andrew Tate red pill shit. It's not about how many fucking brain dead sluts you can fuck. Oh my God, girls are just giving themselves away right now. It's insane. It's insane. There's so much insanity that of course people are now switching over to binaries. They're like, I'm a tradcon. I'm an anarchist. It's wrong. So this is somebody who's trying to think, and they're addressing religion conveniently around the time that, I tore into the new atheists and you see, now watch this thread unravel. You're welcome. No credit though. You're like, you're arrogant. No, I'm not. I'm very, very fucking humble. You think someone would put on a Batman shirt to like stream at 5:07 in the AM, criticizing like popular people saying the right trendy things on YouTube? No, I'm just trying to make. Okay, first off, I like Batman, and I fancy myself as someone who is mortal as well, using what means I have at my disposal to bring about justice in a world that is rife and lousy with corruption and misunderstanding and aggravation and tension and frustration and insecurity. I'm doing my part. Okay, so I fancy Batman for that reason. Also, I don't care if I come off as dorky. I have a 20-something-year-old son, and he told me. Anyways, like, what the fuck is dorky? Can you do anything about dorky? And the thing is, he didn't even watch the video. He said something that clued me off to that. It's not like some genius clue. It was very obvious. He said something about my mic level, which it's like, I actually put a title card up that says, you can't hear me. This is what I'm saying. I comment after. And the thing I'm saying into the microphone is, I shouldn't be talking now. I'll save my commentary till later. So his like, you're dork. Anyways, that's his and my business. And he's failing terribly on any kind of self-actualization in favor of the trendy coalescence that is sucking all of our kids into this channel of it's not like the kids are turning into transes. I think people pursuing themselves in whatever way, that their life is pulling them towards is not just good, it's wonderful. And all the micro considerations that people will bring to that conversation, I think, unless you're in Florida or Texas, we're past those, because even the most hateful motherfuckers believe that other people's business is other people's business. So if they say that, then the Republicans say, well, what are they doing to kids? They're butchering kids. And they'll point to some trendy California fucker that is doing that to their kid. And it might be kind of a gross example. But then they want to do like legislation in a completely different state and attack like all the trans as an ideology. But then online, people continue to serve it as a united front. It's an ideology against an ideology. And it's just not. This is individual pursuit of self. That's why there's suicide rates and other effects that you can say, well, why is that there? Because there's an increase of insecurity. They don't know who they are to begin with, and people are keeping them from investigating that without feeling much more shame, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Insecurity, a lack of certainty, metaphysically and physically, emotionally, mentally. This is what we're experiencing. So treating it as like us against them just makes an us and them. And these Republicans are like, we not only should fight it, but look what they're doing to kids. And then they're ready to fucking like die over this war. Stop being fucking stupid about things you don't understand. Stop making people that aren't you who you're championing. You don't do it right. You don't do it right. But you could. You could. That's why I'm here. You could. We could. And when I say we, I mean all of us. Really and actually all of us. Do I have to do something like, oh, hi, I didn't see you there. Hi, we're doing a video with a theme and blah, 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 blah. If I should do some like structured video essay about some certain topic that would maybe start this right, I'm open to that too. But I need some kind of response or acknowledgement that's meaningful. I don't mean like YouTube chats about like visions from Noah. And I think I got a Somalian kid in my chat that's like trying to, I don't know, the whole religious angle that whatever person, I can't help people with their obvious, how can I put this? The reasoning that is informing your compulsion is wrong. We can't get at the reasoning if you keep putting out more effect. When you're like talking about war and stuff like that, it's just too crazy. Like nothing on earth exists that we can't be reasonable about. The idea that you're supposed to be this way or that way or God wants this or that is just bullshit. Slow down, calm down. Feel your own skin. Feel the backs of your legs resting against the chair. Feel your eyelids. Become present, okay? I mean, that's a meditative, you know the deal. There's plenty of stuff online you can do to meditate. I don't necessarily encourage people to calm down. If you've got something worth being upset about, that's good, but not when it just repeats itself. And it makes me think that you're part of some weird Israeli, like, or Russian or some like internet President Sunday sycophant, something that's like meant to keep me down, because people are going to see that and they're going to be like, what the fuck is this crazy shit? Look, I'm the Antichrist. We need to talk about what comes next. The last dispensation is upon us. I don't need to be talking crazy religious shit. I need to get at this. You see people online that have very serious misunderstandings about the nature of a soul. So much so that when someone challenges the old, excuse me, the old, it's just a fucking busted. The new atheist thing is like, it's just so tacky, passe, and like Generation Z, it's not a real thing. There are just certain heroes that stand out that you want to lump together in opposition to a stodgy old dysfunctional status quo, in this case, orthodoxy and religion, which you're right to do. But looking all through history and saying colonialism and imperialism and the interests of the powers that be is all collective and it's still being perpetuated, because look at the Gulf War and look at then the, the energy crisis differential between when there were conflicts in the Middle East and not. It's like Cheney and Bush and the crimes of the Bush administration are one thing, a big and disgraceful and terrible thing that we need to get into. But connecting that to Obama and just the Western powers since the 1700s is fucking not right, and it's bizarre. But people go along with it. And they're like, ooh, and that's the habit. So these channels are carved, and that's what we're up against. On top of the political explanations, the philosophical, psychological explanations about who we are as people and how we work, we need to get at that. And finally, most importantly, the thing that helps translate all this is understanding our true nature. Marianne Williamson said it very well on Hannity. You know, she did amazing on Hannity's bullshit show and on his show and dealing with his bullshit. She handled it with aplomb and panache. And as a woman, she has to contend with that. I can't be too bitchy, but I can't be too passive because I'm a leader and I need to demonstrate qualities of leadership. She has to balance that while also we don't deserve her. And the fact that I don't even see her on, anyways, she gave a wonderful answer that I encourage you to look it up yourself. Anyways, here's the deal. People are confused, and we need to be able to get at that confusion in a way that helps us become an us at a time that power differential is so skewed that it will crush us all. And it is not explained as like imperialism and capitalism and war machines and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the fossil fuel companies are corrupt, and they've infected very primary. There are arteries that run into Washington, D.C. through lobbies and Congress people. They've infected those arteries. Yeah, the fossil fuel companies and the conundrum that we are in as planet Earth and as Americans is real. But connecting that into one big strip that we have to coalesce around to fight that is wrong. It is the status quo and the general human limitation that we are up against. Your narrative is too convenient, and it's lazy, and it's wrong. And if you really care about the things you say you care about, you will stop the Leninist explanation now. You will start helping me get responses and engagement so we can become a we. We can deal with other people that will only talk to you if you have X amount of subscribers or whatever. If I make money off of this, I will share it with us. I will put it into this. That's the deal. This is 100% good faith. There is nothing that I'm bringing to the table that is an illusion, a delusion, a lie, a riddle, or some trollish, cryptic arrangement of I'm going to pull the plan off later. The plan's in effect now. Everything that I've said online is just like fucking around, but now we are here. It is the real deal. And when it comes to the soul and who we are as humans and what that means to come together to serve human interests in the ideal is something that we can get at. But instead of that, we have people like that Ramaswamy. What's the guy, the Republican? He's an Indian American, not indigenous, native, nations, tribes from, presumably India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or something like that. He's, he sounds like his parents were immigrants. He was born in America. He just sounds very American. Ramaswamy or something. Hold on. I need to get his name right because I'm about to break his ass down. Well, Jaden Animations is up. That's cool. Oh, what is his name? So respectable street. Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy. Yeah, okay, this guy. This is what you get. This is what you get. You get people like that.
Stephen students are inspired by humanity.
Let's say, you know, our collective American culture is falling apart, and the thing that's going to save us is to step up and be excited about who we are. He's right about that. But the people that he's pandering to are not going to do any more work than just saying, I like what that young man's saying. And he's not going to win, right? But somebody else, the messages that work, you know, will work. And whomever it'll be Trump. You guys realize that Trump's going to win again. Since Biden is running, Trump will win. Biden cannot win. His job was to hold the center. That's it. He had to hold the center. He did that for a term. I don't even care if they put Pete Buttigieg up there. You can't have Biden and Harris, okay? Send her back to California, put her in law. She is not meant to govern the complex and complicated people of America. They put her in there as a pander vote, the female black vote. That's it. That's why she's there. And she doesn't do a good job of representing women or black people. So she shouldn't be there. She pisses people off, and the people that are supportive, the K-Hive or whatever, are only supportive because it's like a sport to them. Like a loyalty, like President Sunday's error. It's not about playing as a team. It's about understanding what you're playing for so you have the drive to fight when it gets hard and you're not inconsistent. You establish your virtues, values, and convictions, so then as the going gets tough, you're almost inspired to try harder because you're reminded that this toughness comes from the problem itself. You know, I think it's easy to get like worked up because problems can inspire that. Think like V for Vendetta. People like the attitude to be like, I'm against the injustice of the pre-dystopian effect, but they don't do it right. They ain't right in how they do it. So start helping me, I start helping you, and we can get this going. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think either people want to make sure it doesn't happen because they're smart enough to see I'm like an ingredient. Once you put me in the mix, then you have the necessary ingredients. They don't want me in the mix. And the way this stuff is, you need my full face for this. The way this stuff is organized is that if somebody presents that bit of information, you're so callous and crass and lazy mentally that if me calling you lazy mentally wasn't enough, which is mostly enough for people, they're like, oh, he called me. I'm not talking to you unless, you know, it's like saying, hey, dumbass, and you turn around. It's like, I wasn't talking to you, you know, but like the projection that you carry makes it about you before we've even had any engagement. I don't know who you are. I'm not talking to you. In fact, if you're listening to me, I'm talking with you, not at you. That's the idea. And my frustration is representative. It's not an act, but it's representative of the nature of our problems and the pressure and the urgency that comes with them. Being cognizant of them produces the effect of not being able to escape from realizing, you know, how urgent the now is. Okay, so this guy wants to get into religion. Help me get in here. Put me in the system. People, please. I will make it worth your time. You will thank me later. It is going to be a good time. If you give me feedback and let me know maybe what you'd like to see a big, strong, intelligent white man talk about, you know, I will do it. But as I see like the things that Destiny goes to, where they're like red pill communities and Destiny's situation with his wife and this Farrah girl, like, I'm really curious about what they talk about off camera. Like I'm really, really curious because that's probably more telling than what we hear from them. I don't know. He's a mystery. He's a mystery. He's not like Vosh where you're going to get this honest and straightforward assessment, analysis of complex and varied social, political, historical, economic Vosh gives you really good analysis, and it's pretty abstract and concrete. It goes back and forth. And Destiny has to, I think, know which mode he's in. He's going to be in, like if there was a debate off in a, shit. It was Mises Institution or whatever. And the debate was Ukraine and the influence of, as a proxy war for America's financial interests. And of course, that's bullshit. Destiny's just bringing fact after fact after fact. And he's also being very careful. He's saying, oh no, what was that you said? And he lets the guy talk. And the guy rewards that with, well, you don't think this too? And he's at this point where he's like, you have to think this. Like, why don't, his head's going to explode. But Destiny works very well in that. But then his channel's all like fucking memes and that, like, anyways, there are probably reasons for that sometimes, not all the time. Vosh and Destiny are very different, very, very different, but they are both honest in their assessments. It's just a matter of preference when it comes to style and social circle. This guy and this thing, however, is lazy. It's lazy, 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 lazy. You ready? Oh, wait. Sorry.
More than merely material.
Here's Richard Swinburne to make some goofy arguments about the soul.
You like to think of persons as more than merely material.
Yes, I think that's a much wider term in persons.
Actually, right off the bat, I want to say, goofy. It characterizes it, and it takes your burden of work away from you. You don't have to work. If you say good already, it's like, it's who even thinks this way? You're looking for the best way to dismiss them rather than deal with the argument itself. And that is the popular way to deal with things, and that's the problem. You look to other people, this is how we all think. You're not doing it right.
Includes humans, but it's a much wider term, and I would define it as a pure mental substance. I'll give you a definition of that in a moment. A pure mental substance who has free will and moral beliefs and certain powers to make a difference to things. And that is compatible with them either having a body or not having a body. I understand by a pure mental substance one for whose existence nothing material is necessary.
What does it mean for a person to exist without consisting of anything material? It seems to me like a person is a pattern of material activity.
Okay, we don't need to listen to him read it because he was so kind to have printed it. I hope that I know everyone, right? Like I've got this it is a bit of a delusion, but I want people to be who I want them to be, and I'm trying to be charitable in that assessment too. I want them to be, I want this person to know who I am. I don't mean like in the future. I want to find out that they've been privy to my input in some way. Twitter would be the place. Because even though people don't like my shit, you could see how many people have looked at it, and it'd be like 10 seconds after I post something, it'd be like 18 people have read it. No one likes it? That's weird. I don't care. As long as you're reading it, I just want the ideas to affect the discourse. And, if I had nothing to do with it, then I'll be disappointed. But it's also the bright side is then I may get engagement because they honestly have not, been privy to my perspective, and may look forward to engaging with someone that is equally compelled to complex metaphysical matter. So what does it mean for a person to exist without consisting of anything material? Well, sir, this question is a very old one, and there are many ways to answer it, none of which can be substantiated, of course. But what does it mean? Imagine it. It's being a ghost, right? It's being a spirit. It's being a life force. It's being Where does fungus come from? Well, you say there's a bacteria or mold or something, a spore. That's what it is, a spore. And it consumes some type of anaerobic bacteria or something like that. Right? There's a process we're going to begin to trace. Yeah, but where does the life come from to begin with? Like why does it grow at all? Right? Where does the momentum that seems to exist, just constantly looking for any way that it can be born, where does that come from? Well, I know there's no easy way to answer that, but it's something to consider, and this is where gnosis comes from. You ponder the nature of God and the existence of God. What is God? We don't know. Like the founding fathers, most of them were deists, which means they believe in a God, a creator, something, but they also recognize that God does not directly interfere. He doesn't do miracles. There's no magic. There's no prophets. It's just, it's in the design. This is what inalienable, self-evident rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And then everyone's like, well, it left out women and black people. Yeah, incidentally, that's part of history, but that doesn't negate the value in the initial, they think it does. It doesn't. Hit me up. We can talk about it. I can correct you. I can help you get there. I can forgive you for your misreads. I can forgive you for your vitriol and your propensity for pigeonholing everything the wrong way. I can forgive you for not understanding what fascism really means. I can forgive you for getting all of your political inclinations from Lenin himself and not knowing that. I could forgive you for anything as long as you really want to know the right answer, not the truth. I'm not saying like, I'm going to convert you, but that's the idea. You should have a conversion of heart, not for like Christ, but for truth, for wisdom, for the design of it, how amazing it is, experiencing it in its fullest, being most present to the thing that is actually there and understanding objectively what's most worthwhile. So then you can plan and prepare for that. And maybe what's most worthwhile is, as they say, it's the journey, not the destination. But this is where your preferences should be concerning themselves. Are you an objective or a subjective person? And your mood could change. It could be one day and another the other day. But understanding what you want will allow you to succeed in that. And sometimes you need to get what you think you want to understand you wanted something different. The path of excess leads to wisdom, because you need to have some experience to understand what is enough. You need to have experienced what's too much. Maybe. I don't know. These are different ways to think about this. And we say, what does it mean for a person to exist without consisting of anything material? It means a consciousness. Think about someone who's trapped in a body, okay? You don't need full use of your faculties to be completely human. Boom! It seems to me like a person is a pattern of material activity. Yeah, that's one way to explain what we can observe in some ways. That's not in totality. That's very reductive and that's slippery. It's good writing, not good thinking. Personhood is a kind of software. See, that's at odds with your previous statement. Personhood is a kind of software running on some material substrate. Exactly. So why do we have self-awareness? Why are we able to interposition ourselves in time? Why do we have a sense of the past and the future and connection to ancestors stretching back to the beginning of time? There may be reasonable and rational explanations that correlate with evolutionary biology. But you have to ask yourself, the overall momentum that's there, is it possible that the two interests serve one another? And you can see this most clearly when you consider human nature on a trajectory, moving, not as a static thing. It's not static life. We're not plant life. And we're not just hunters. And we also do terribly just self-destructive and weird things to ourselves that don't line up with evolutionarily biologic explanations. They don't line up. They be contradicted if survival. Now you could say different environment created that effect, and now humans are in what would you call it? A contrived or synthetic environment. That we could talk about that stuff. That's what's the guy Dawkins? That's his thing. What's the cosmos? Carl Sagan. There's tons of good. Michael Shermer. Sam Harris. There are plenty of good pundits that have recorded excellent thoughts on this matter. Kant solves it too. Why do we pre-structure events? We don't just take what's there and be like, oh, we pre-structure, we expect, and that expectation serves our purposes. You know, objectively, subjectively, it's not a cut and dried thing, but the utility in understanding that function is what explains who we are. It's not just material. We pre-structure things based off what we want, and what we want is largely a choice. It's not easy holding that choice. Like, I know who I am. I know what the choice is. I know what my options are. That doesn't come automatically. You have to get that. I don't understand what it would mean for a person to be anything other than that. You're making this difficult on purpose to win an argument against your parents or something. This is bad argumentation. But it's written and you read it like, oh, which is fine because you're probably what, like 23 maybe? Maybe a little younger. You're doing great, but reach out because we got a lot of corrections to do. You got 65,000 subscribers. This is what I'm saying. This system is not built off of good information. It's not built off of utility. It's built off of preference and pseudo loyalty and weird things that don't end up serving the interests that make up, let's say, the topics that are most catchy, trendy, you know, for good or bad reasons. It doesn't serve the convictions that are postured as if that's what's propelling this, you know, argument. All right.
Personhood is a kind of software running on some material substrate. I don't understand what it would mean for a person to be anything other than that.
What I wanted to ask you about is one of...
You could try. Just because you don't understand doesn't mean... it's...
The first problems that people encounter when considering persons as being material and also partly immaterial, which is the problem of interaction between these two parts of the human being. It seems that if I were to prod your brain in various ways, it affects the mind. And similarly, it seems impossible for the mind to change or do anything in any way without the brain also doing something. So this leads a lot of people to think that the mind and the brain are just the same thing. What is it that allows us to separate these out and to explain how they could possibly interact if one is material and one is not?
At the most fundamental...
Okay, homeboy. TMM, you didn't understand it. That was good argumentation. All right? The guy is saying, and you may get it at this point, I don't know, but I've watched this already, so I know what your response is. The host, I assume, of that, whatever that interview, whoever these people are, the host, his argument is that if there is consciousness or soul or self that is separate from the material, the brain, the neurons, the gray matter, the neocortex, and all the various components, amygdala, and all those little fun little things that are in the center, glands, and all the pituitary gland, and all that stuff, the physical versus the concept, the construct, as if it was one thing. We're trying to objectify it. We have to use a placeholder as a representation of that. Okay? You could do that. You're a big kid, I assume. You can imagine just for a second, imagine self is just a circle. It says self. It doesn't have to be anything other than that, because we're just playing out, you know, a thought experiment, right? That's all this can be. In fact, that's all anything could be. Mathematics, hardcore logic, it's the same thing. You can say nothing about the certainty in that regard. There's no such thing as pure and true deduction. That's a fact. Look it up. I'm not making that up. It's all induction. It's all induction. We can say nothing in absolute certainty. Nothing. But we can get pretty close, and there are ways to check and justify and substantiate and agree on, you know, what's worth agreeing on. And that process is an active one that we as humans must participate in. We cannot, and this is, I'm kind of deviating from this philosophical conversation into another one. We cannot have our needs just met. We need to have some constructive matter of tensions that we can choose to solve or not. Life is a mystery of compromises and whatnot. We need to have some kind of, if you're just like, this is your life, These are the clothes. This is the food. You have all your needs met. You're going to live here. You're going to do this. We all know that you cannot just go to the end of the, you can't just say, what are the objective needs of humans? And then be like, we'll meet all those. It doesn't work that way. It needs to be a coalescence of the two. And dualism, which is the material and the spirit, this idea, which is not like only crackpots, prescribe to this. Descartes, I think, therefore I am. It's the movement of the thoughts. It's not the mechanics of it's not the physical neural mechanics of the thoughts. It's the movement and the shape. There's plenty of neurological information to get into here that substantiates the difference between mind and brain. One of the most compelling is a study where they interviewed a bunch of kids, and I forget, I think it was like alphabet or colors or shapes, and certain people associated A, B, C, D, E, F, G with certain order of colors. So like A was red and B was blue and C was yellow, right? And they're like, why did a lot of people all made the same associations? Like, what's up with that? Well, we find out that it was a generational thing. The group that responded that way en masse all grew up when those little plastic magnet letters people put on the fridge, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that stuff. They were all made, like the most common ones had the same orientation of colors. A was red, B was blue, C was yellow. And here's the thing, our brains regenerate, right? So our complete body, all of us, too many words. Let me back up. I don't know the span of time. I don't know how many years it takes, but we completely regenerate. Our cells shed and slough off, and new ones are born. Of course, we grow, and there are different changes that are in our genetic code and environmental influences, epigenetic effects, which are another conversation. But I can understand how people get lost and they're like, I just don't want to do, it's easier to believe in God or whatever. That's another thing that's like it's easier to do that because it says all this work that must be done to really be truly secure in this knowledge. I'm not getting anywhere. It's alienating. I have to step out of my comfort zone. The little bit of work that I have secured, I would have to maybe throw out to people don't want to do that. They want to say the people that I've loved, when they're dead, I'll see them again exactly as they are. They want those comforts, right? They insist that the Christian idea of a resurrection is a physical and literal direct one. This is because that serves their preference of familiarity. The point with the brain, the neurology point, is because our cells regenerate, they're trying to track where in the mind memories are stored. Well, if it's stored somewhere physical, right, then you could say it would have to rewrite that information somewhere else. But if you've not seen those alphabet letters, or you've not even thought about them at all, in fact, you saw them when you were a baby, before you could talk, before you could organize that experience into a linear memory for you to reference. So in theory, you've not even had any memories about them. You've had the sensory input, but you've not situated that information. Nonetheless, as your brain has most certainly when you're in your 20s, 30s, when this, I don't know what age group they're tested on, but there were, older people. I don't mean elderly. I mean, they weren't babies, right? And the people didn't have any direct conscious recollection of having the things, but the impression was there nonetheless. So our brains are weird. The way they store information, even the most hardcore neurological materialists are not like, oh, it's this way. There's a lot of mystery in the way our minds versus our brains work. Welcome to the study of it. Keep going, person TMM. This is not good argumentation, but it's a worthwhile subject. This is not an own on spiritualists. This is not an own on compatibilists. This is not an own on dualists. And with that, it's almost 6 a.m. We could keep going, but I've made my point. Look, TMN, hit me up, DM me at Timothy Peer on Twitter. I'm on a break from Twitter until the summertime, until at least June 15th, but I'm checking my DMs because that is the funnel that I look for the chosen in. If you are willing to do something, right, you're on your own, to make a choice, to not just leave a comment here, but to go to my Twitter at Timothy Peer, P-E-E-R, and write me a message saying, hi, I made that video, you want to have a debate, or you asshole, whatever you want to say. You're making a choice to, step outside the norm and try to coordinate something with me. I will reward that with whatever type of friendship, consideration, respect, rules. You want to say, you know what? I want 8 of my friends to try to tear at your stupid idea of a soul. Whatever you want to do, okay? But if you want to do it, show me, DM me at Timothy Peer, and we can evolve like cute little Pokemans. And I don't mean Pokemon. I mean Pokemon, like Pokemans. No, I don't know. Hit me up. We can evolve, transcend this tar pit of cliches and groupthink. Pretty please, pretty please. Have a wonderful day. The sun is coming up. I got to get my coffin. I'll see